Why is the Biden administration changing its stance on electric vehicles? This question is causing waves in the automotive industry. Today we're diving into a report from the New York Times, which suggests that the Biden administration is expected to relax its rules for the country's transition to electric vehicles, or EVs. This shift has generated quite a stir, and we're here to dissect the possible reasons behind it. One potential reason could be that consumers aren't buying electric cars as quickly as the government had hoped. In 2023, more consumers opted for hybrid cars instead of fully electric vehicles. EV sales made up a mere 7% of the market that year. Could this slower than expected adoption of EVs be influencing the administration's policy shift? Now, let's bring politics into the mix. With an election on the horizon, the administration might be considering the political ramifications of its EV policies. The United Auto Workers Union has expressed concerns about potential job losses due to a rapid transition to EVs. Automakers and car dealers have echoed these concerns, warning the administration about the risks of pushing for an EV transition too quickly. Could these voices have influenced the administration's decision to ease up on its EV push? The original emissions regulations were designed to propel EV market share to 67% of the new car market by 2032. However, the revised rules would require a slower ramp-up in sales through 2030, followed by a steeper increase after that. This change could have significant implications, depending on who the next president is. This change in policy could have significant implications for the automotive industry and the broader towards sustainable transportation. As we continue to pass through the complexities of this policy shift, it's clear that the road to a greener future is filled with twists and turns. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this topic in the next scene. And remember, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on the EV industry. So who stands to benefit from this shift in policy and who might lose out? Let's start with the potential winners. Car manufacturers and labor unions could breathe a sigh of relief. The proposed rule change would mean less stringent requirements for vehicle pollution in the short term, effectively allowing car manufacturers to have a smaller percentage of their fleet be electric by 2030 than initially proposed. This could boost their sales and profits, at least for a while. The industry would also have more time to ramp up its EV production and charging infrastructure before regulations tighten up on the gas-powered vehicle market. But it's not just the manufacturers and unions who could stand to gain. Consumers, particularly those who have been hesitant to make the switch to EVs, might also benefit. We've seen a shift in the market trends, with consumers increasingly choosing hybrid cars over fully electric vehicles. Last year, EV sales made up a mere 7% of the market. The rule change could potentially cater to the preferences of these consumers and offer them more choices. Now, let's flip the coin and look at the potential losers. The environment, without a doubt, could be the biggest casualty. The original emissions regulations were designed to significantly increase the EV market share, thus reducing vehicle pollution. A diluted version of these regulations could slow down the transition to cleaner energy. The EV industry itself could also take a hit. The rule change could mean a slower ramp-up in sales through 2030, potentially stunting the growth of the industry. And while the rule change could smooth over political concerns, it could also dampen the enthusiasm of those who were hoping for a more aggressive push towards electrification. And then there's the question of job losses. While the United Auto Workers Union has expressed concerns about job losses due to the push for EVs, critics argue that a slower transition could lead to job losses in the EV manufacturing sector. The policy change could be a double-edged sword with both positive and negative implications for different stakeholders. The political implications of this policy shift cannot be underestimated. The United Auto Workers Union, or UAW, has been expressing concerns about President Biden's re-election campaign. The UAW fears that a rapid transition to electric vehicles might lead to significant job losses within the industry, and this fear is not without basis. After all, manufacturing electric vehicles requires a different set of skills and technologies compared to traditional gas-powered cars. This apprehension has likely played a role in the administration's decision to reconsider the pace of the switch to electric vehicles. The UAW's support is crucial for the president, especially with another election looming on the horizon. In this high-stakes political game, it appears that the UAW's concerns have been heard, and they've managed to get what they want, at least for the time being. But it's not just the unions. Automakers and car dealers have also voiced their worries about the administration's ambitious electric vehicle push. They've warned that moving too quickly might lead to unforeseen consequences, such as a lack of adequate charging infrastructure or consumers being reluctant to make the switch due to cost or reliability concerns. These industry insiders may have also played a role in convincing the administration to take a step back. After all, they are the ones who will be directly affected by these changes, and they have a vested interest in ensuring that the transition happens at a pace that's sustainable for their businesses. However, this doesn't mean that the switch to electric vehicles is off the table. Far from it. The administration is still committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and is investing heavily in renewable energy. But for now, it seems that the pace of this transition will be slower than initially anticipated. So, what does all this mean? Well, it's clear that the political landscape has a significant influence on environmental policy. The concerns of unions, automakers, and car dealers have been taken into account, and the administration's stance on electric vehicles has been adjusted accordingly. It seems the political landscape is heavily influencing the administration's stance on electric vehicles. Not everyone is on board with Biden's EV push. There's a chorus of criticism, with the loudest voice perhaps being that of former President Donald Trump. He vehemently opposes the all-electric vehicle mandate, labeling it a ridiculous all-electric car hoax. Trump argues that such a seismic shift in policy could lead to significant job losses, especially in traditional automotive manufacturing hubs like Michigan. His critique doesn't end there. He warns of a scenario where the American auto industry could crumble, handing over the production reins of electric vehicles entirely to China. This, he suggests, would be a disastrous outcome, a fallout of what he calls Biden's crazed concept. But it's not just Trump. There are others who share his concerns, pointing to potential job losses, the cost of EVs, and the reliability of the charging network as stumbling blocks to a wholesale switch to electric vehicles. On the flip side, the Biden administration remains steadfast in its stance. It argues that a softened approach towards EV adoption is not a retreat, but a recalibration. Senior climate advisor Ali Zaidi insists that the overarching policies, including federal investments in renewable energy, will still steer the country towards its environmental goals. The administration remains committed to cutting US greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. They argue that this policy shift is not a derailment, but a necessary detour to ensure smoother transition and wider acceptance of EVs. So, as you can see, there's a divide, a chasm of opinion between critics and supporters. There's a tug of war between economic realities and environmental imperatives, a balancing act between preserving jobs and preserving the environment. And as the debate rages on, the future of the EV industry in the US remains in the balance. Will the critics' fears come to pass, or will the administration's ambitions be realized? Only time will tell. The debate over the future of the EV industry in the US is heating up. The road ahead is fraught with challenges and uncertainty. But one thing is for sure, the wheels of change have already been set in motion. What does this policy shift mean for the future of electric vehicles in the US? Well, the implications could be far-reaching. For starters, this policy shift could significantly impact the EV market in the US. On one hand, it provides automakers with a bit more breathing room, allowing them to better align their production capabilities with market demand. On the other hand, if the government continues to push for a rapid transition to EVs, automakers might be hit with hefty penalties. We're talking about potentially billions of dollars in fines. This could be a major blow, especially considering many automakers are still struggling to turn a profit in the EV sector. But this isn't just about the automakers. The ripple effects of this policy could touch corners far beyond the auto industry. The US economy at large could feel the impact, especially if job losses ensue as a result of a hasty transition to EVs. For prospective EV buyers, there are two key concerns that loom large: cost and network reliability. EVs, while becoming more affordable, still carry a higher price tag compared to their gas-powered counterparts. And then there's the question of charging infrastructure. Is it reliable? Is it widespread enough to support a nationwide fleet of electric vehicles? These concerns, coupled with the potential economic implications, paint a complex picture for the future of electric vehicles in the US. It's a delicate balancing act between advancing towards a greener future and ensuring the health of the economy and the auto industry. The future of electric vehicles in the US is at a crossroads. It remains to be seen how this policy shift will shape the path ahead. The decisions made today will undoubtedly echo into the future, shaping the course of the EV market in the US and defining the nation's role in the global shift towards sustainable transportation.